This is 𝗨𝗂𝗁𝗏 from Trade University. It's really good to be back. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, or whatever you celebrated. And today I thought I would do sort of a retrospective on 2022. It's been one of the weirdest, most amazing, most volatile years that I've ever seen. And I'm calling this a 2022 crypto toilet flush. In other words, nature is healing. It's not been a good year for the crypto bros and their tokens, most of which have gone down the toilet. We reached this point in 2020 and late 2021 where we had moved on from really brainiac Bitcoin. We solved the Byzantine generals problem and created a global decentralized currency, to crypto now and Dogecoin and all the abominations and all the scams that we saw. So I thought we'd quickly go through those and then talk about what's been happening with Bitcoin and my outlook for Bitcoin. So obviously it's been just a complete rogues gallery of scammers this year who have used Bitcoin, who have tried to pile on Bitcoin or sell their tokens in opposition to Bitcoin. We have Do Kwon and Terra Luna basically going to zero. This is something that we warned about. We warned about death spirals about 8 months ago. And I'm going to link to all these videos in the description notes below. We have Hex, which is one of the biggest scams, and Richard Heart, which I warned about 3 months ago. And over the holidays, Hex has really plummeted now down to just 0.0185 cents. This is complete garbage, obviously. We've had Solana completely collapse. This was something that we talked about as early as 12 months ago, talking about how the VCs, the venture capitalists, were getting ready to dump on you. And it has really been a brutal dump. Now Solana trading below $10 a coin and probably on its way to zero. This is not a very robust ecosystem. And Chamath and David Sachs and 𝗕16𝗁𝗍 and all the scamming VCs have basically exited or are in the process of exiting too. So hopefully you didn't hold any of these coins. 2022 was also the year in which a lot of predictions about self-custody and neobanks and crypto banks came true. I've been warning about this for many, many years, talking about BlockFi not being safe and Celsius not being safe and Gemini Earn not being safe. And even as long ago as just 7 months ago, I talked about how Celsius was about to implode. And we did indeed see that this year, along with BlockFi, along with Gemini Earn. Here's a little retrospective back to Invest Answers, trying to warn people that I was spreading FUD about Celsius. This was just about 2 weeks, I think, before Celsius finally blew up. Celsius files for bankruptcy. We have BlockFi filing for bankruptcy. We have Gemini Earn unable to meet redemptions. And this was not a special prediction on my part. All I was basically saying was these are very unstable services. They're practicing re-hypothecation. They're lending out your Bitcoin. You're giving up your keys in exchange for a very small amount of yield. And it just doesn't make any sense. And so those things all completely blew up. And in the process, really hurting a lot of people, unfortunately. Fortunately, many of you were able to get out in time. The really big news of the year, I think, though, was Ethereum castrating itself by moving from proof of work to proof of stake. It was simply unable to compete with Bitcoin in the arena of proof of work. So it moved to a very, very unstable, unsafe security system. And in the process, it basically turned itself into a US government captured and controlled coin. And over the last 30 days, I know I've pointed to this many times, but even over the last 30 days, almost 70% of the blocks are enforcing US Treasury OFAC compliance. This is the problem with proof of stake. It's very easy for the government to control it once you've moved to that and to tell you what transactions you can include in blocks and what transactions you cannot. One of the biggest ironies of Ethereum doing the merge and moving to proof of stake is a lot of Ethereans were very happy and excited, thinking that you no longer have proof of work Ethereum miners dumping their coins on the market to pay for their electricity. And as a result, they were widely expecting Ethereum to outperform other coins, including Bitcoin. It turns out that it's been about $1.5 billion worth of sell pressure has been released and relieved because Ethereum's no longer doing proof of work. But in spite of that, Ethereum has underperformed Bitcoin. Since the merge, which was approximately September 15th, Ethereum is down 18.6%, while Bitcoin is only down 15.8%. One of the main reasons of moving to proof of stake was to try to pump Ethereum, obviously, but it backfired quite badly and ended up creating a captured coin. So that's basically the crypto toilet. There are too many implosions to cover, but those were some of the big ones that we called on this channel in late 2021 and early 2022. Now I want to turn to really the apex predator of money, the king, which is Bitcoin. And I think after the last 12 months, we all have a different perspective on this, and we see what really makes Bitcoin so special. We've talked about all the chaos endured by the crypto industry and by scammers and by people who are taken in by their scams. What was 2022 like for those of us who did not own any shitcoins or stable coins or dog poop coins or monkey JPEGs? For those of us who did not store our Bitcoin on an exchange or give it to BlockFi or use one of Pomp's FTX affiliate codes? Those of us who did not store our Bitcoin on an exchange but rather hodled our Bitcoin in single sig or multi-sig cold storage? This is really what 2022 was like. There was a lot of drama. There was a lot of pain. I certainly felt it sympathetically, but I was never worried because I had control of my Bitcoin the whole time. And I know a lot of you did as well. If you're not sure or you don't remember what multisig is, I'll link to this video in the description notes below. Multisig is really the best way to store large amounts of Bitcoin, and it's a form of cold storage where you need, for example, 2 out of 3 keys to move the Bitcoin, or 3 out of 5 keys, and you can distribute these keys geographically, and so it makes it a much more safe way of holding Bitcoin in cold storage. Bitcoin itself has been fine throughout 2022. It's been a new block every approximately 10 minutes on average. What's really interesting is the hash rate has moved up sharply from 12 months ago. So I'm recording this on Friday, December 30th, and just a year ago, the hash rate for the Bitcoin network was 156 exahashes per second, and that has moved up. Even though the price has moved down, there's now more hash rate securing the protocol. We're up to 242 exahashes, and this is what proof of work looks like. Bitcoin is really the only game in town now because the competitors like Dogecoin might be moving to proof of stake. Litecoin is much smaller and much less interesting. So really Bitcoin is the only game in town now that Ethereum has moved to proof of stake. So that's very good to see the Bitcoin network hash rate continuing to go up. I like this tweet from Mike 𝗕𝗏𝘁𝗶𝗺 talking about nothing is really happening in Bitcoin. He's obviously being ironic, and there's a great example here of all the stuff that's happening, especially on the Lightning Network. So I'm not going to go over this now, but you can see just the explosion of layer 2 and layer 3 projects being built on Bitcoin, which is really the only solid foundation around. Ethereum, you can't build anything on it. It's a complete spaghetti code and it's secured by proof of stake. And so whenever someone tells you that nothing's happening with Bitcoin, I want you to share this image with them. Let's go over some of the biggest lessons from 2022. I think the biggest lesson, obviously, is one that I've been preaching for the last couple years, but I think we all see it much more clearly now when we see the carnage. The answer is yes to Bitcoin, no to all other crypto. These other cryptos are just unregistered securities for the most part. The second biggest lesson is probably not your keys, not your coins. And as we saw, this is something I've been preaching again for a couple years, but we really saw in a concrete manner how important self-custody really is. And if you were self-custodying your Bitcoin, you slept a lot better in 2022 than people who were frantically wondering whether Binance is going to go under or whether FTX was going to go under, etc. So this is very important. You just buy Bitcoin, that's all you buy. You hodl it for the long term, and you hold your own keys. In other words, you hold it in cold storage, you hold it on a hardware wallet like a Trezor or a Cold Card, or you hold it in multisig, as I referenced in that other video. The other thing we've learned is that you should never give up your private keys to earn yield on your Bitcoin. You should never give up your private keys. You should never share them online. You should never upload them in a digital image, but you should definitely never voluntarily give away your Bitcoin in order to earn yield. At some point, this might begin to make sense. For example, if there's some multi-sig solutions that offer this, so you can have some transparency into what your Bitcoin's doing on the blockchain and whether it's been re-hypothecated. But at this point, I think it's just a very good lesson to never give up your private keys. Don't go into the mousetrap that BlockFi sets for you, or that Gemini Earn sets for you, or that Coinbase sets for you. They give you a measly 6 or 7% yield or whatever it is, and then you end up losing all of your Bitcoin. If Bitcoin does what I think it's going to do over the coming years, you're not even going to miss that yield. It's not going to be important as Bitcoin moves to 100,000, then 200,000, then 500,000, then $1 million, then $2 million, then $10 million per Bitcoin. The problem with giving up your Bitcoin is if it gets re-hypothecated, you end up losing it. So if this is the example, you give your Bitcoin to Gemini Earn, they lend it to Genesis Global, the hedge fund, which tries to trade with it and generate a yield for you, or lock it up in DeFi or do something silly. They lend it to Three Arrows Capital, who probably does something silly with it as well. They invested, Three Arrows Capital invested in Terra Luna. They blow up, and the result is you lose your Bitcoin. So you're down 100%, and you took that risk in order to just be up 6% in a year, which really doesn't make any sense. And we've seen that all these crypto banks, all of these crypto lending services are complete garbage at this point. This may change in the future, but right now it's too risky to lend out your Bitcoin to anyone. As we bid farewell to 2022, I think there are a few things that we can feel good about. We can feel really good that a huge amount of Bitcoin has made its way from weak hands, from Bitcoin tourists, to really serious Bitcoiners, to serious, strong Bitcoin maxi hands. For example, I own a lot more Bitcoin than I did 12 months ago, and this is largely because the fiat price has fallen so much, which has made my dollar cost averaging and your dollar cost averaging that much more effective. So there really is a silver lining to Bitcoin being dragged down with all of the other crypto. The difference is FTT is never coming back, CEL, Celsius is never coming back, all of these coins, Terra Luna is never coming back, Hex is never coming back, etc. But Bitcoin is going to live to see another day. And really anything could happen with Bitcoin. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit new all-time highs next year and go on into the 100,000s, especially if the Fed decides to reverse course. So that's the first lesson as we bid farewell to 2022. A huge amount of Bitcoin has made its way from weak hands to strong hands. Lesson number two, a huge amount of paper Bitcoin has been destroyed. So for example, FTX sold about $1.4 billion worth of paper Bitcoin to its customers. They told their customers that they own Bitcoin, but they backed it up with zero real Bitcoin. So this is unfortunate for FTX customers, but this is paper Bitcoin that has now vanished from the system. And that's definitely a good thing. The third good thing is small investors now own more Bitcoin than ever before. And probably they own it in self-custody. It's not on exchanges. We're going to see this is great. This sort of ownership among small investors for Bitcoin is great. It's great for decentralization. It's also good for creating a strong Bitcoin social layer. I'll link to this article so you can read more about how the percentage of the Bitcoin supply held by retail investors has reached a new all-time high as of December 20th. So this is definitely another silver lining to the crypto implosion that we've seen this year. The percentage of Bitcoin held on exchanges actually peaked in March of 2020 at 17.5%, and looks like now it's fallen to the low double digits. So we can see that for most of 2022, starting right here, Bitcoin has just been leaving the exchanges. And this is mostly, I imagine, small investors taking self-custody of their Bitcoin. And once you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, once you put it on a hardware wallet or put it into multi-sig and you continue your Bitcoin education, you are never going to move that Bitcoin again. It's going to be hodled for the long term. It's not going to make its way back to an exchange anytime soon. So I think this is another good silver lining that we've seen. I wanted to wish all of you a happy new year. I'll make another video on Monday or Sunday or Monday. We'll see what my schedule looks like. But if I don't talk to you before that, best wishes for happy and prosperous 2023. It's been a real joy to have all of you as an audience. And I think we've all learned a lot and had a little bit of fun in 2022. Just remember, I think the lessons are that Bitcoin is the apex predator of money. It's the real digital gold. It's the real gold, whereas crypto is digital toilet paper. And the great blessing of 2022 is a lot of this toilet paper has been flushed away for good. I don't think we see the end of crypto here or the end of altcoins. There's always going to be scammers and there's always going to be fools. But I think we've made significant progress, and we've certainly educated and created a lot more new Bitcoiners in 2022. So you have to ask yourself, going into the new year, going into 2023, what is in your wallet? Is it crypto garbage? Are you still holding on to some Ethereum, hoping it's going to bounce back? Or have you moved out of fiat and out of crypto into the apex predator of money, which is Bitcoin? If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comments section below, especially some ideas you like or topics you'd like to see me cover in 2023, or any questions about stuff that's come up while I was on vacation. I wish you all a happy new year, and I hope to see you in a day or so.